The worn-out application slipped from the top of the stack and landed on the billionaire CEO's polished desk. She glanced at it for barely a second before her hands suddenly stopped moving. The color drained from her face as she whispered a name she had not seen in 12 painful years. Across town, the man whose name had shaken her entire world was sitting outside the building with his little daughter, believing he was about to be rejected for yet another janitor job. Neither of them knew that before the sun set, their lives would change forever. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances can change lives, please take a moment to like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue sharing stories that inspire hearts around the world. Graham Holloway had once been the kind of man everyone admired without realizing how heavy the burdens behind his smile truly were. Years earlier, he had worked as a talented structural engineer, building schools, hospitals, and community centers across the country. He never chased wealth because his greatest dream had always been simple. He wanted a quiet home filled with laughter, a loving wife, and children who never questioned whether they were loved. For a while, life had granted him exactly that dream. Everything changed during one terrible winter when a highway accident took his wife, Meredith, leaving Graham alone with their 4-year-old daughter, Eliza. Grief came crashing into his life like an endless storm. He tried to stay strong, but depression stole his concentration, causing him to lose his engineering position after months of missed deadlines. Job interviews became harder. Bills piled higher. Savings disappeared. Friends slowly drifted away as their own lives continued moving forward while his remained frozen. Every morning Graham woke before sunrise, prepared breakfast for Eliza, braided her golden hair after watching countless online tutorials, packed her lunch, and walked her to school with the same reassuring smile he no longer believed himself. Then he spent the day searching for work, accepting temporary labor whenever someone would give him a chance. Pride had long since disappeared. Providing for his daughter mattered far more than titles or prestige. After months of rejection, he finally noticed a simple advertisement posted outside Lancaster Global Holdings, one of the country's largest companies. They needed custodial staff. Experience wasn't necessary. Reliable character was. Graham stared at the advertisement for several minutes. Years earlier he had managed multi-million-dollar construction projects. Now he was praying for an opportunity to clean office floors. Yet shame never entered his heart. Honest work was still honorable work. Eliza squeezed his hand and smiled with the quiet optimism only children possess. She told him that every superhero started somewhere. Sometimes they just carried mops instead of capes. Those words stayed with Graham as he completed the application. Inside Lancaster Global Holdings, Billionaire CEO Vivian Lancaster prepared for another exhausting afternoon of meetings. Despite leading one of the country's most successful companies, her office often felt painfully empty. Awards lined the shelves. Magazine covers displayed her accomplishments. Yet none of them erased the regrets she carried. 12 years earlier, before inheriting the company, Vivian had been a young project manager desperate to prove herself. During one difficult construction project, she had unfairly blamed an engineering failure on the youngest member of her team to protect influential executives. That young engineer's name had been Graham Holloway. Although Graham had accepted responsibility with quiet dignity, Vivian later discovered evidence proving he had been completely innocent. By then he had already resigned. She searched for him for months but never found him. The guilt followed her through every promotion until she became CEO. Now his application rested directly in front of her. She immediately cancelled every afternoon meeting. Human Resources explained that Graham was waiting downstairs. Vivian stood frozen beside her office window, realizing fate had delivered something she believed impossible. When Graham entered the interview room, he looked older than the man she remembered. His shoulders carried invisible weight. His inexpensive jacket had been carefully repaired several times. Yet his eyes remained kind despite everything life had taken from him. Vivian recognized something even more heartbreaking. He didn't recognize her. Years of hardship had erased memories connected to corporate boardrooms and executive offices. To him, she was simply another employer deciding whether his daughter would have enough groceries next week. Instead of beginning with questions about cleaning experience, Vivian quietly reviewed his employment history. Every gap told a story. Every temporary position reflected survival rather than failure. She asked why an engineer would apply for custodial work. Graham simply smiled. He explained that dignity wasn't found in job titles but in doing whatever honest work allowed a father to care for his child. He said that empty pride never paid school fees or bought winter shoes. His answer left the interview panel speechless. Vivian noticed something else. Attached behind his application was a drawing made with colored pencils. Eliza had drawn herself holding her father's hand beneath a bright yellow sun. Above them she had written in uneven handwriting that her dad could fix everything except broken hearts, but she believed someone would someday help fix his. Vivian excused herself for several minutes because tears threatened to reveal emotions she had hidden for over a decade. Instead of offering Graham only the janitor position, she quietly instructed human resources to investigate his engineering certifications. To everyone's surprise, every license remained valid. His knowledge hadn't disappeared. Only opportunity had. Over the following week she arranged practical assessments without revealing her identity from the past. Graham solved complex engineering problems faster than candidates half his age. Maintenance supervisors praised his work ethic after watching him volunteer to repair broken equipment during the interview process. Office staff noticed how he greeted security guards, receptionists, and cleaners with the same respect he offered executives. Most importantly, employees constantly spoke about the little girl who waited after school in the company cafeteria finishing homework while her father completed interviews. She thanked every cafeteria worker, cleaned her own table, and shared homemade drawings with lonely employees. The company slowly fell in love with both father and daughter. Vivian finally realized the greatest mistake of her life hadn't been accusing an innocent engineer years earlier. It had been assuming success was measured by profits instead of character. One bright afternoon she invited Graham into her office alone. Before discussing employment, she confessed everything. She admitted that fear had once made her betray an innocent colleague. She described the investigation that proved his innocence and the years she spent searching for him without success. She apologized without expecting forgiveness. Silence filled the room. Graham looked through the enormous office windows toward the city skyline. Then he quietly admitted something unexpected. He remembered her. Not because of the betrayal, but because she had secretly mailed him an anonymous recommendation letter after he resigned, allowing him to secure another engineering position years earlier. He had never known it came from her. That recommendation had supported his family until tragedy later struck. He told Vivian that grief had taught him something powerful. Carrying anger only made already heavy burdens impossible to bear. He had forgiven the people who hurt him long before realizing whether they deserved forgiveness. Vivian couldn't stop crying. For the first time since becoming CEO, she felt genuinely human again. The following morning the company gathered for what employees believed was a routine staff announcement. Instead, Vivian introduced Graham as the newest director of facilities engineering, explaining that true talent sometimes disappears beneath hardship but never loses its value. The entire auditorium erupted into applause. Many employees stood cheering. Some wiped away tears after hearing parts of Graham's journey. Then something unforgettable happened. Little Eliza walked onto the stage carrying another drawing. This one showed dozens of people standing together beneath the same bright yellow sun. At the center stood her father beside a smiling woman wearing a business suit. Above them she had written, "Sometimes people find their way home without ever moving." The audience remained silent for several emotional seconds before applauding even louder. Over the following months, Graham transformed aging company buildings into safer, more efficient workplaces while mentoring young engineers who lacked confidence. He never forgot the janitorial application that had brought him there, often spending time with maintenance crews because he believed leadership meant serving everyone equally. Vivian established new hiring policies ensuring candidates would always be evaluated by character as well as credentials. She created scholarship programs for single parents returning to professional careers after personal hardships. Hundreds of families eventually benefited from opportunities inspired by one forgotten application. Eliza continued visiting the office after school, becoming everyone's favorite unofficial employee. Executives often discovered encouraging notes she secretly placed on their desks reminding them that kindness made people stronger than money ever could. Years later, when Graham was asked during an interview what had truly changed his life, he didn't mention promotions, salaries, or executive titles. He simply said that hope often arrives disguised as the opportunity we almost feel too ashamed to accept. The janitor application he nearly didn't submit became the doorway back to the life he thought he had permanently lost. Vivian later admitted that success had finally become meaningful only after she learned the courage to apologize, the humility to admit mistakes, and the wisdom to recognize extraordinary people behind ordinary circumstances. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Before you go, tell us in the comments, do you believe forgiveness creates stronger people than revenge ever can? Sometimes life doesn't reward the strongest, the richest, or even the most talented. Sometimes it quietly rewards the people who refuse to stop believing that tomorrow can still become brighter than yesterday. And when kindness finally meets courage, even the smallest application can open the biggest door to a brand new beginning.